Boom, boom, boom. Will I am.
Are we live?
We're as live as they come, dude.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
All right.
Wish everybody luck.
Yeah, we're gonna have some. I'm sure we're gonna have a good conversation here. Especially once you got your little.
I got him.
You got him.
I'm a little bit scared.
Why?
I don't
Be
know.
scared.
Well, here, Bula, dude.
Huh?
I'm glad we're doing this.
Oh, me too. I think the best way to handle it, I got you a little cupful, is to open it up.
Stay right in that mic if you can, man.
Yeah.
There you
The
go.
best thing to do is to open it up, pour it in here, and then mix it a little bit. Take it like a shot.
Little tea in there.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so for those of you who are not watching and are just listening, I am about to microdose some psilocybin.
For the kids out there.
Yeah. So these are like little capsules. If you had to guess,
Yeah.
for a friend,
For an educated guess,
how much do you think is in here?
I would say probably around half a gram, which is
Half a gram.
which I would say is a good microdose.
That's what you were talking about, the wind.
Yeah, I can feel it over here or hear it.
So we have noise gates on the microphone and like noise reduction, but we're not monitoring with it. So in the final recording, it's going to cut out all that background noise, just so you're aware. We can hear it in our headphones, but it won't be in the final thing.
Nope.
All right, so I am opening up this capsule right now, and I'm going to pour. I'm honestly, should I do it all?
Yeah, it's only it's only a microdose. So I mean,
Yeah,
worst
but
case,
it's relative, right?
well, I mean,
Micro for some, macro for others. Because I know my friend Ellie, who you guys know, did this, and she took a whole capsule, and then she goes, I don't think that was a micro. She was fine. She didn't like trip out crazy.
well, she also had not eaten all day,
Right.
And I don't know what sort of state she's in, so it's really not. It's not enough to really do anything to you. I mean, it's a nice little mood enhancement, but because you've eaten, for one, you're definitely going to need to have the full cap. I would not just do half. I'd do the whole thing. It's not, it'll be fine. Worst case scenario, you start, saying some weird shit here.
Okay. Fuck it. All right, I'm doing the whole thing.
Oh, yeah, can we curse?
Yo, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
you can say whatever the fuck you want, man.
All right. Fair enough. That works.
But most importantly is you want to be in this microphone.
Okay.
So
I tend to speak low anyway.
you're a
because I
you're a
have
soft
this.
speaker.
Well, also because of this, I feel like I'm yelling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm not hearing my own voice.
No, understood. It gets a little getting used to. The headphones are good because it makes us kind of lock in with each other, and it prevents us from like over talking each other. You know.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna pour some of my tea into this concoction here. Oh, I should have brought a stir stick. It's all right. I'll do a little swish.
Yeah, that'll be fine. Did you pour the whole?
I did the whole thing, dude.
There you go. All right.
All right. Now, have you already done this today?
Yes.
Yes. All right.
I've
So
had actually 4 of those capsules.
4 of these capsules. Is that why there's the slight smirk?
That's why I'm speaking low. Yeah.
All right. So I checked with my wife. She is okay with this. So I'm interested to see when it kicks in. So today I have had just kratom tea.
Yeah.
I don't smoke marijuana anymore, really. So I'm not on any marijuana. This is going to be like substance, the only real thing I have. So I'll be able to feel it when I feel it.
Yeah,
All right.
and because you're mixing it like that, it should hit you a little bit faster. Because if you got to wait for the cap to metabolize that, so hopefully it'll hit you a little sooner, so we can get this maybe midway through the podcast.
Okay. Fuck, man. All right. All is good. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm glad that you're here. All right.
be fine.
Down the hatch.
Up. See, you got to mix it up a little bit more. Give it a good swish.
It tastes
you know
good.
what? What might be a good idea? Take that other cap out of the little thing.
Yeah.
I probably should have told you to do this.
No, it's
before.
okay. I got
Mix
it now.
up real good.
No, I got it now.
All right. I think you still got some sediment though.
Yeah, he wants me to have every little
Every
fucking
little
piece,
drop,
man.
every last drop.
What it is there's a piece sticking in the bottom here.
No,
The
just
poor people who are listening to us are like, what the fuck are they doing?
we're attempting to get every last drippity drop since he's only doing a small amount. Might as
That's
well
it,
make
dude. I got it. All right, so this is going to be like a little social experiment, so to speak,
work.
where I'm starting off the podcast clear-headed, and then we will see what
Let's
happens.
see if we descend into madness.
Yeah, exactly. I
don't
keep
think
doing that. My apologies.
No, you're fine.
Well, William, I'm very appreciative that you decided to sit down with me kind of on a last-minute thing here.
Yeah, no worries.
we met maybe 3 or 4 months ago now. You came in with some friends. I think you came in with Aldo,
Yeah.
that whole crew.
He had, he would be a great person to have on. I don't know if you've had him.
Oh, I've already talked to him
Yeah.
like I've already requested to have him on. He said 100% he'll do it. I just got to get him booked. He's an interesting guy.
He's quite the character.
Yeah, talented too.
Yes, he is talented. His soon-to-be wife is as well. Great artist.
Wendy.
Yeah, Wendy. They're great friends. They're good people. Very good people. I met them over at Ruta, but yeah, I came over with them. Had to be in, goodness, August, September. That's when I started coming here. Rather the first time I did.
Yeah.
So how long were you guys open by that
So
time?
we opened June 18th of 2021.
Okay.
So June, July, August, 2 or 3 months we were open when you first came in.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I saw the buzz, and going from Kava Bar to Kava Bar, you start, people are always talking about the new bars that are opening up and blah blah blah. And this one, everyone was raving about it. They kept talking about it's a great spot, and the people who opened it were like chill people. So obviously, we had to come.
Yeah,
Check it out.
that's awesome. Well, we
course.
appreciate, your support early on. You guys came in a large group and you were here regularly for weeks, which was like invaluable to us because we were, we had invested, everything that we had. Basically, we were working at our day jobs in Delray,
Yeah.
making a small paycheck each week. And then every weekend we would go to Home Depot and buy the things we need and come in here and get it done. So by the time we opened, we needed to make money so bad. And we had people giving us like $20 tips and writing on it, like, good luck, you're killing it. And then would say, like, hang that up on your wall. So after the second day, we had like 4 $20 bills taped to the wall. And we were so broke. We're like, fuck, we need that money. So, but the good luck worked.
Did you end up putting some of them back up, at least, in...
Oh, we didn't take them down.
Okay,
we didn't take them down. We left them up. And the good luck seemed to have worked. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. Are you a little hot over there? Yeah. It's maybe the nervousness. You take a little bit of drugs, you don't know what's going to happen. It's okay. Don't sweat. You'll be fine.
Literally, don't sweat it.
Don't sweat.
So you popped in today
Yes. Yes, sir.
with equipment in tote.
Aha. Yes.
And I know you to be a photographer. It is boudoir.
I mean, that's one of the types that I've done. To be honest, calling myself a photographer is weird as it is for me to say. Like, that's not really what I set out to be. And I guess I still don't call myself a photographer. I'm more of an entrepreneur who does photography, but I do some boudoir. And the way I got into it was, opening up a company in Southeast Asia and kind of doing an online magazine with Playboy models and FHM girls, which are big in that country that I was living in. So I guess if you're gonna pin me to a genre, it would be like sexy boudoir Playboy style. I guess that's its own genre now. But yeah, that kind of stuff. Basically, naked girls. I like naked girls.
Sounds like a terrible gig.
Oh, you know what? It was really difficult to get into. I was really hesitant at first because I didn't know how people would, look at me, and I don't know if I'd be comfortable being around beautiful women that were naked. And yeah, I don't know, man. I'm still racked with guilt. My family's very disappointed. No, it's been awesome. It's been a wonderful little ride, but how I got there is an even more interesting story. But,
Here, don't kill me, man. You just stay right where you're at.
Yeah. Is it not?
Yeah. There you go. See that big difference there? Go ahead and talk.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that's what we need right there.
All right.
Now I hit the spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably.
That's all right. It'll bite back.
Sure.
So how you got started was,
You know what? To be honest, everything from the little pill that you just took to the photography that we're talking about now and my journey here, it all comes from a very interesting long tail. I could quite possibly start from the beginning if you want.
I would
Hear
love
a
that.
Long,
we've
great
got
tale.
we've got all night, man. I gotta let this shit kick in anyway.
That's
so
true. All right.
yeah, how did it start?
Where to begin? So it started probably about 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I was actually living here in South Florida, and I got married to a Brazilian girl. So we're going off on a really weird tale here. So I got married to a Brazilian girl who was not a citizen of the country. So she wanted a green card. I wanted to move to Brazil, and I ended up kind of just hooking up with her, looking at that as like a great way to kind of learn Portuguese, learn about the culture. And obviously she wanted something very
Sorry.
different. Yeah. So anyway, I got married. Very dumb decision. And at some point in the relationship, she was getting pretty upset with me not giving her a green card. And so there was a pretty awful event one night where we had just moved into a new place. I just gotten into radiology school. I basically had decided, okay, I'm gonna kind of settle down with this girl and commit, even though I really in my heart didn't really feel like it was the right choice. Needless to say, that night while I was drunk, this girl thought that I was hooking up with the girl, or thought I was hitting on the girl downstairs, our new neighbor. Ended up getting real angry, kind of attacking me, pushed me down a flight of stairs. So I'm tumbling down a flight of stairs drunk,
Jesus.
and the neighbors, because we're in a tribe, I don't know what they call them. It's like it's one of those townhouses. They got 3 floors. They got a bunch of houses next to them, and one of those. I don't know. What
Yeah,
the actual-
townhouse.
Townhouse. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the neighbors had called the cops. So they show up, and I'm in a house. Mind you, all of our roommates, they're all Brazilians too. None of them are illegal. I'm the only citizen
Jeez.
in the whole house. Cops show up, and at the time, I was pretty drunk, and we had a little bit of a scuffle, but I'm the one who got arrested because everyone pointed their finger at me. Say, okay. Now, again, at the time, I was okay with it afterwards because I was like, all right, well, it's better that I got to take the heat because if she got arrested, she would have been deported.
Deported, yeah.
So it wasn't too big of an issue initially. However, I wasn't allowed to talk to her, and then I didn't hear from her. And what had happened, a couple months passed, and it turns out that this is what my lawyer explained to me later on. They have some sort of loophole here where if an illegal alien thinks that their life is in danger and they can kind of somehow prove that or justify it, they'll give them citizenship. So what I found,
What?
yeah. So what had happened was during our scuffle, while she was attacking me, I had grabbed her to push her off, and one of the places I had grabbed her was her neck. So what they said at that point was that I had committed an offense by grabbing her at the neck. So that becomes very serious. So even
Yeah.
though she hit, punch, slap, push me down a flight of stairs, which could be, said to be attempted murder.
Yeah.
The fact that I had grabbed her, that superseded everything else. So that was very surprising to me, and very, it was kind of it was like catastrophic because from that point on, everything I was doing in my life had to stop. So I had started to go to radiology school, and I was informed that if this continued to go and I ended up being convicted of a crime, that I wouldn't be able to take my boards.
Oh,
So I'm watching my whole life fall apart. My person who was my wife, who I just basically decided I was going to commit to, threw me under the bus. My career path has been destroyed, obviously financially and everything else. I was pretty messed up. I was having to hire a lawyer. I was 22 at the time. I had no money. I didn't really, I was just figuring life out. So I had come to a kind of a crossroads in my life. And prior to that, as I said, I wanted to move to Brazil and kind of travel around. That was always my goal. That was always my dream. And excuse me.
yeah, it's all right. Boolah, brother.
Yeah, these other ones are starting to hit me too. The same thing. I took a couple before we started, so yeah, mine are going to be hitting a little earlier than yours.
Well, I'm here for the ride, dude.
So I had always wanted to travel, and I figured, well, this is going to be my best opportunity. Also, figuring out what was going on with my case through my lawyer, it looked like I needed to find out exactly what was going on from her end because I wasn't allowed to talk to her. So I decided to leave the United States, to basically put it on hold. So,
As a fugitive.
well, not really a fugitive. I was arrested and then released, and I was actually on like house arrest, and I was just dealing with the court system. I had court dates, and by not going to court, then I had a bench warrant for my arrest. It's not really like a fugitive. It's not.
Not like a pickup warrant where they come and look for you.
Yeah,
It's
it
if
was.
they come across you, they're going to take you in.
Yeah, exactly. So I left. Basically, I got rid of all my possessions. I looked at this as just like really a crossroads in my life, and I didn't tell anyone in my family. I didn't tell nobody knew. I packed up a duffel bag about this big with all my possessions. Everything else I tossed. I had saved up about $2,000, and I left. And I got on a bus and went across country, rode a bus from Florida all the way over to California into San Diego, and I crossed into the Mexican border. I was very hesitant. I was very afraid that maybe maybe if I did come across a cop or something, that I would be picked up. Like, I wasn't really sure. There was more paranoia and just ignorance at that point in my life.
Yep.
Probably should have just flown out. But I did go on this kind of cross-country adventure on a bus, which was interesting. And then, obviously, I passed into Mexico thinking that I would only be there for like a month. So, yeah. So now I take a bus down to the state of Sinaloa in a place called Mazatlan, which is a nice, beautiful town that's on the Pacific coast, right across from the Baja Peninsula. So if you're looking at a map, that tip right across is Mazatlan. So the reason I went there too is I had flown there once for vacation, and I had met a couple people just in my short trip, and that was literally the only place that I knew in Mexico. So I figured that would be a spot I can at least have some sort of contact when I go. So I go there with my duffel bag, a couple grand, and my best friend at the time knew about my little trip and adventure. And, you know, the plan was I was going to go there for about a month, and he was planning to come too. We had wanted to kind of travel down and get to Costa Rica, because at that time online gambling wasn't really legal here. And we were doing a lot of online gambling. We figured, you know, it was a silly, dumb dream. We were young, dumb, but we were making money with poker. So we were working kind of a team, and we had put together a nice bankroll of about 10 grand. So I had a couple grand with me. We had another 10 grand waiting. And then, you know, the plan was wait for him to finish up his whatever he needed to do back home. He'd come meet me and we'd start traveling. So I'm sitting in Mexico for about a month. And he ends up getting attacked after he makes a big win in the casino. Dude gets assaulted. Everything's stolen. He can't walk. He ends up being in the hospital for like a month or two, and he can't walk for like several months.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he gets fucked up, and all of our money's gone. So what little money I had was starting to dwindle, because, again, wasn't planning on staying there. So now I'm in Mexico. I don't speak the language. The only language I was learning at the time was Portuguese, which is not very useful in Mexico.
Nope.
And I need to figure out what the hell to do. So I start doing whatever I can, little odd jobs. I'm like an immigrant now. It's kind of a funny reversal, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
White guy, immigrant in Mexico trying to do like hard labor. I'm sitting there helping people paint houses and move shit. Luckily, I was able to find a nice expat community. So all these retirees from both the U.S. and Canada were down there. And I was able to find some odd jobs. I was watching houses, walking dogs. I was fucking moving shit. Like, I was literally doing whatever. I was a little bitch. I didn't care because I just had to survive.
You needed the cash.
Yeah. And I was able to start building up something there. And I met some really great people. I met a cool author who had written, I'm trying to remember, something about Kabul. So she had lived in Afghanistan, and she was with, I guess, either a boyfriend or husband was an Afghani. And she lived over there in Afghanistan, and she had a salon or some shit. So when they were starting to try and get westernized some of the environment over there, she was pushing women to work and getting them to learn how to do beauty school stuff, salon, whatever. So she had written a book, actually. It was like a New York Times bestseller or something. And she lived down there, and I ended up training her because I had I had a little bit of history working out and working in the gym as a trainer. So I was doing that. So I was able to meet some really crucial people that helped me kind of survive while I was there. And she was one of them. And I met her son. He was the only other guy that was below 50 there. So there's like me, that dude, and then everyone else is retirees and expats. So anyway, at some point, though, I did meet another individual who would probably shape the next couple years, I would say. I have to understand, too, at this point in time, the drug war was pretty heavy in Mexico. And Sinaloa...
Yeah, like the Sinaloa cartel, right?
Yeah, so Mazatlan is just a bit south of Culiacan, which is the literal capital of the Sinaloa cartel. So, like, and most of the stuff that's in Mazatlan, it's a resort town. They have a lot of the cruise ships that stop there. That's mostly owned by all the cartel members. That's how they, like... That's their investments and how they launder a lot of their money and whatever. So that culture, everything is there. That's you're in cartel land, and
yeah,
it's kind of hard not to be involved with any of those people. It's hard not to run into them, and eventually, obviously, I did. Now I didn't know at the time because he was a white guy. This dude had he was a how did I meet him? So I was dating a girl, went to her birthday party, and I met this dude, another white guy. So me and him quickly, oh, look, another person, you know. I don't speak Spanish, no, neither do I, thank God. So we're starting there chatting and talking. And he seems like a cool guy. He seems well put together. He's a bit older than I am, probably my father's age. My father's pretty young, so had been in his 40s at the time. And, I looked at this as an opportunity because we were talking business. And, he's like, oh, I could use somebody to help me out and stuff. And I was like, oh, thank God, I'm looking for any opportunity I can find. And it's the same thing I was doing with all the expats. I was just chatting, being like, hey, can I be of use?
Yeah.
Because I came to the realization that I had no skills. Like moving down there was a wake-up call. You grew up in this country and things are a lot easier than you really know. It's really hard to appreciate that unless you're somewhere else. And not only are things different in other countries for the ease and the what are they called, like the what's the word I'm looking for here, the things that are I'm drawing a blank on the word. This is what mushrooms do.
Oh God, wish me luck.
No, but
like the ease of doing things.
Luxuries. There's the luxuries and so luxuries I think.
Oh yeah, the creature
comforts.
Creature comforts. Yeah, okay.
So we don't really appreciate what we have that here. So when you're going to Mexico, for instance, I'm in Mexico and like there's times when the water's out and I'm having a wash out of a bucket. There was a lot that I didn't appreciate. So on top of that, I also came to the realization that even outside of an environment where everything is so easy, I have no applicable skills. I couldn't do anything. Not only did I not speak the language, but I had no trade. I had no skill set. I was pretty much useless.
Yeah.
And that was a wake-up call for me, too. That really, really changed the path that I took in life and how I approached just life in general, because I had to really pick myself up and figure out how to be a bit more proactive and self-educate, all that. So anyway, so I meet this guy, and I'm trying to be of any use. And he's like, yeah, we'll do something. And it's funny how we ended up reconnecting. So we're at this party, and there's this beautiful, absolutely beautiful Mexican girl. Now, you got to understand that over in Sinaloa, some of the girls there, they had a lot of French that mixed in there. Spanish, obviously. You got the regular Mexican girls. You have a bunch of different ethnicities there that have created just... Sinaloan girls are known to be some of the most beautiful in Mexico, and Mexican women are absolutely astoundingly gorgeous. So one of these girls comes up, she's a dancer, and starts flirting with me, and we're talking, having a great time. She grabs my hand and take me home, and I'm like, all right, this is good. So we're going all the way to the other side of town, go up to this high tower. I was like, all right, well, this girl must be wealthy, or girl has some money. Going up, go upstairs, but she knocks on the door. I'm like, oh. She's like, oh, I don't have my key. I was like, okay, but who's in there? That dude opens the door. Yeah.
No shit.
So I'm like, oh shit. Exactly. I was looking at him. I'm like, oh man, I am so sorry. I didn't realize. And he's kind of got like all right, just come in and I'll explain. So I go inside, and he's like, all right, so listen, Ellie was her name. Ellie and I have kind of an arrangement, like we go out, she picks up girls. I come to find this out. I'm hanging out with them later, but they'll go out and they'll literally just pick up some girls, and Ellie's great at it. She'll go and, if you ever want to have a threesome, you send your girl out.
Yeah.
And Ellie was the king of this, or rather the queen. She'd go out and pick up girls, so they'd regularly go back home with 2 or 3 other girls. So Jeff was his name, was having a grand old time. So he's like, well, listen, and the arrangement is we have that, but if she ever wants to bring a guy back, I have to be okay with it. And he's begrudgingly saying this. I was like, all right, well, I'm not into guys. He's like, no, neither am I, but we're both going to have to handle this. And I was like, right. So I had one of these moments. I had to walk into the bathroom. I literally, like from a movie, I'm standing at the mirror and looking at myself. I was like, you got to make this happen. You got to do this.
Holy shit.
Because I was like, this is an opportunity. Remember, I'm in a desperate situation. I've been here for months. I don't have a lot of money. I've realized I don't have any fucking skills, so I got to make myself of some use. And here's this opportunity, but I'm going to have to get a little dirty for it. So I go back out and, like a champ,
handle business.
So this is how I met this character. And it turns out that this character was a trafficker of cocaine. So basically, he would have connections. Now, it's not like this guy did it himself. What he would do is he basically controlled it. He was there. And what I ended up doing, because I couldn't go back to the U.S., is I knew people too. And without getting too deep into what occurred, I would help facilitate the movement of certain things from one place to another.
Okay.
And that is how I started to make a pretty good amount of money, but not a lot, obviously. Like I was very far down on the rung of this hierarchy.
Yeah.
And being engaged in that world, I had to go out and party with them, start to hang out with them, and you know, at that point in time, there was a lot of killing and death. So that place was basically a war zone. I remember sitting on top of the roof, one of the places I was renting out, with a beer watching firefights downstairs.
Gee.
So, I mean, when I first entered town, we went under the bridge and there were bodies hanging. Again, this is the height of that drug violence, the drug war that was going on in Mexico. This is probably, 2010, 2011. You can look this up, like the time frame. You'll see all the articles of everything that was going on at the time.
Yeah, I remember seeing all that, the bodies hanging from bridges and whatnot.
Yeah. Well,
now, are you not at all terrified in this circumstance?
Oh, yeah. And yeah, so I was obviously alone. And this becomes kind of a common theme and a reason, as I'll get to much later, why I end up having to do the mushrooms. But that was not an easy experience. At first, it was more it was exciting, of course. I felt like, 22. I felt like I was in a fucking movie. I felt all cool and shit. But I ended up being terrified because there comes a point when you're going to the grocery store and you're stepping over bodies. And then I watched my neighbor get gunned down. I've been chased down. I've had a lot of incidents that occurred over the probably year that I was doing this. I was attacked and mugged by police and then other people. I was held captive for a short period of time. Obviously, because I was watching houses, that came into it was very useful for me because there was one point when I had sex with some girl, and it turns out that she was the wife of somebody of importance, and this person was in Tijuana. So I ended up getting threats, and I was hunted down for a short period of time. Nothing really ended up coming of it. Obviously, I'm here, but all I can say is it was a probably year-long nightmare. And although I was able to make money, it was something I begrudgingly did because I didn't have any other choice. So towards the end, there was remember the Boston bombings?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had worked my way up to a point where I was trying to purchase a space. So basically, they have these shipments that go up and down. Product goes up, cash comes back, and I had purchased a spot so that I could make it a little bit of investment. Put a little bit of money in, it goes up, you get some of the money back from the sale.
Okay.
And around that time, and this is what I was told, I don't know if they just fucked me out of it, but the excuse was when the Boston bombing they shut everything down, especially on the borders. So they did an overlock, like they locked everything down. And apparently our shipment got lost. So a lot of what I had worked up to get was gone suddenly. And there was a point where I was like, all right, well, the relationship between me and this character had started to deteriorate slightly. Things were getting more difficult for him. He had actually tried to bring me in because things were already difficult for him, so he was kind of desperate to try and find other people to help. And basically, I was like, I found an opportunity to walk away without having any sort of beef or issue with him. And I didn't owe any money. He didn't owe me any money. It was just kind of like, listen, I had to go. And there was kind of an understanding. If you say anything, you'll die. So I was like, okay. So at that point, I'm pretty fucked up, like emotionally and psychologically. And I phoned home to my grandmother, and I'm like, listen, I need to kind of get out of here. I was wondering if you can get me a ticket to give me a little bit of money. And there's a course I want to do, which was actually an English teaching course. It's to get a certificate. So I have my CELTA, which is a Cambridge, it's a University of Cambridge certificate for teaching English. So I ended up going to Mexico City. I left Sinaloa, went to Mexico City, enrolled in this course. Thankfully, my family gave me a little bit of money to pay for the course, and I ended up doing that there for a couple months. Ended up graduating, finishing, get my certificate, and immediately I was able to get a job with the company that I had done it with. So now I've moved from basically trafficking to teaching English in a very short span of time. And the first couple weeks, like, it was jarring to come from that environment to this. And I looked back, I was able to handle it a lot better than I'm kind of giving myself credit for it. I don't know if I just suppressed it or just...
Yeah, like compartmentalized it.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And So anyway, now I'm in Mexico City and I'm living in a hostel, and it's actually you go from nightmare to almost like fantasy, because I'm in this really cool hostel in the center of Mexico, and every week you get these new groups of young cool people, and it's actually this hostel experience that made me want to come to kava bars because it reminded me of the atmosphere. So now I'm living in this hostel, and as I said, like every week we get a new set of people, and now it's a completely different vibe. I'm starting to make money, not as much money, but decent money. I'm having a great time, getting lit, partying every week. It's a new group. It's like living in a kind of a dorm.
Yep.
So if you've ever traveled and been in a hostel, just imagine living in one all the time.
I haven't had the opportunity to.
But it's akin to like living in a dorm, but no school.
Right.
So it's real fun.
And you never know the type of people you're going to meet in these places, because all of the people who are living there are also traveling.
Yeah. Like there's very few people that were permanent like me. There's maybe one or two. Usually it's people that work there. But I ended up moving into there just for a short period of time for my class. And then once I got the job, it was pretty close by, and I started talking to the owners. I became friends with the owners of it. It was a younger woman. I was like, listen, do you mind if I can work out a deal with you to pay you, instead of having to pay like a regular rate, I'll be here long term and I'll pay. So it worked out for me. I got a pretty good term, and pretty good rate rather. And anyway, it was great. So I start working there. Now I'm traveling around Mexico City. I'm going to all these businesses. Now I wasn't teaching like kids. I was teaching business English. So I'm working for Pepsi now, Disney. So all these all these corporations, they have Latin headquarters, and a lot of them are located in Mexico City. So all of these people, they still have to talk to the corporate back in the United States, and they need to learn English. So they have people that come from the other country and they meet and whatever. So I end up helping like executives. Basically, I'm teaching them how to speak English and to talk normally, and I'm going on tours with them. So like PepsiCo, for instance, they're the ones in Mexico who make all the Doritos and all the different chips. I think it's like Frito-Lay or something. I don't remember exactly, but I'm going on these tours of the factory, and I'm leaving work. They're giving me bags of chips, and basically, it was like a really cool experience because I'm with all these really intelligent, really cool people in a completely different environment than I was.
Yeah, you go from drug smuggling with the cartel to now teaching people who work for Pepsi how to speak English.
Yeah, and that was, it was awesome. Like, look back, I really didn't appreciate, because I think I was still kind of figuring out how to deal with everything and compartmentalizing it all. But yeah, so I stayed there for roughly a year, and I can say that when it came to relationships and women, I was having a grand old time because I got a new set every week. So we were doing this game with some of the people that were there. We were seeing how many continents. This is how bad it gets. We were seeing how many continents we could do in a week.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's like, all right, I've never got more than 4 continents in a week. I can never get I get like Asia, North America, South America, Europe. I get stuff like that. So one week though, my Asia was a girl from Taiwan, and she usually, and this is a funny thing, I've never really been into Asian girls, never. I was into the Brazilians, I was into Latinas. I came down here to Florida from New Jersey, and I was just surrounded by Latina girls. That was like the exotic thing to me. So in this hostel, there's usually some Asians, some Koreans, Chinese girls, Japanese. But you're in a party, and they're like, oh yeah, there's a Japanese girl in the way of the hot girls I want to look at. So for the first time ever, though, there was a rather curvy, pretty Asian girl, this Taiwanese girl. And she caught my eye, and we started chatting and hanging out, and we ended up really hitting it off. And we maintained contact. She came back to visit, and it blossomed into a relationship. That was long distance for a while, until I kind of got to the point where I was like, you know what? I think I had enough of Mexico. And she started telling me, you're doing teaching there, but there's plenty of these jobs over here in Asia. And come to find out, it's a very big industry over there. It's like, so you have your cert, you have your certificate. Why don't you come over here? So I was like, all right. So I started looking into it, applying for jobs online, and lo and behold, there were a lot, and they were paying double what I was making in Mexico. So I was like, okay. So not only was it cheaper to live over in Taiwan, but everything was very clean and proper, and they paid more. I was like, okay, I do that.
Yeah, win-win.
Excuse me. So I start planning, put stuff together, hop on a plane, and move my ass to Taiwan
Oh
for a girl.
man.
Yeah. So now I'm in Taiwan, and that was a big change. So one of the funny things, though, and 'cause as I said, I wasn't really into Asian girls, is I get there and I'm looking around and I'm like, these people are not particularly attractive. Yeah, like, like I don't know. And I would meet guys, and some of them would like the girls. Obviously, some had yellow fever, as they called it. And it's like, oh, you don't have yellow fever? I was like, no, I don't really like Asian girls all that much. I've never been into them. And he's like, oh, you will. I remember there's 2 or 3 guys that just said, oh, okay, you just wait. I was like, all right, whatever. And I remember about 6 months into this, I'm walking around in Taipei and minding my business. I'm coming back from work, and then I look around, and suddenly it's like a light turns on, and everywhere I look around, I'm like, oh my god, they're all fucking hot. They're all beautiful. So in an instant, my tastes changed completely to Asian
Wow.
girls, and that was a hell of a thing. But my soon-to-be ex-wife, or soon-to-be wife rather, Valerie was what her English name was. She knew a little bit about my past and history. I confided in her, so I was lucky enough to have someone who was kind of like, I could talk to her about it, and she wasn't really off-put by it. I think she was kind of sheltered and found it a little bit exciting that I had this really, murky past, and I was doing all these, illegal things, whatever. It's probably, you get a sheltered girl, gets her a little wet thinking about that.
Yeah,
So,
bad boy.
yeah, so she enjoyed it, but I think it was useful for me to have somebody to confide in and talk to, and someone who wouldn't like judge or make me feel awful about the choices that I sometimes made. And so that was good to have her, but I was still working through some of these issues and problems there. And eventually, while in Taiwan, I started to look at the time frame I had, because, and one thing I didn't allude to is I had a passport, obviously, but the passport was going to expire in 2016. So I had this clock ticking the entire time, and this is another thing that's in the back of my head. So I have this court case that I'm still trying to figure out how to work through. And oh, you know what? I skipped a very important thing. So while I was still in Mexico, I ended up getting in contact with my ex-wife. And I call her up, and we start talking. We kind of rekindle the relationship for the first couple months
So
that
this
I'm
is
there.
the girl who pushed you down the stairs.
Yes, the Brazilian.
So there was a divorce involved.
Yeah, and this was part of this is part of what was necessary for her to get her citizenship. So, however, because of our case, I wasn't allowed to contact her, talk to her. So it kind of played a role in why it turned out the way it did. And I come to find out later on, because I was out of the country now, there was no risk to me. I was like, what the hell happened? She said, well, when they picked me up, the cop told me what to say. He told me, I don't have to say certain things about attacking you and doing all that. And, I was obviously happy because I didn't want to get arrested and get deported. I was like, yeah, I get that. He said, but what happened with everything else? Like, well, they said if I say this and do this, then I'll be able to get my citizenship. So this is how I found out. So because up to that moment, I was very confused. Like, it's easy for me to just say, oh yeah, she did this and this so I can get citizenship. But it was another thing to hear it from her. So anyway, that was looming in the background for me. I was now trying to figure out, okay, well, she clearly lied, and I have this case now looming, and time is going to run out eventually. This passport's going to run out. And I had just been through a bunch of shit over there. So I have all these things that are, you can think of it like clouds that are following me around. I got a lot of baggage I'm carrying around day to day. And it started to wear on me over the years. I think by the time I was in Taiwan, I had to be year 4, year 5. And that put a little bit of strain on the relationship. And it also, we ended up getting married a little too quick too. I made some poor choices with getting married, being young. But I looked at this very wonderful girl, the Taiwanese girl, Valerie, and I realized that she wanted a very different life than I did, and that if I was ever going to have a good relationship, was ever going to be a good husband, for instance, I was really going to need to get all that shit cleared out. You know what I mean?
You got to get rid of the baggage.
Yeah, like it was just impossible for me to focus on anyone else, to really be like, I was clearly not a normal person to be with. We'll put it that way. So,
Yeah.
like, hey, we're not going to take a flight back to the U.S. I can't enter until I get this thing cleared up. So, I was afraid to go back. So that was another thing, is I couldn't really go back home because I fly back in. Obviously, that's the point they'll run my name. I will get arrested at that point for having a bench warrant. So I kind of a fugitive, but not really. So at some point, I had to make a decision, and I left Valerie, and she was pretty devastated, and I felt awful about it. But it was kind of necessary for me to, again, save her from whatever horrors might end up happening. I kept having these visions. I would have dreams that, like we and her would be trying to have a regular life, and something would happen to me, and like I don't know. I just had a lot of this paranoia because of everything that was weighing on me.
Yeah, which is understandable.
Yeah, so like I didn't want to put her through that. I didn't want her to have that, and that I still feel bad. I feel bad for leaving her and hurting her in the way I did, but I knew that it was the right thing to do. And she's never forgiven me. She talks to me. She hasn't talked to me ever again. Hasn't. But anyway, so I ended up leaving her. And so I'm still in Taiwan. I stayed in Taiwan for about 2 years. So at this point, though, I'm knowing that, English teaching is fun, and it is a way for me to make some money, but I started to develop an entrepreneurial spirit. So as I said, when I was in Mexico and I realized that I have very little use, I was kind of just, I had no skills or whatever. The entire time throughout all this, I start taking classes online and I start learning new skills. So this is every year up to that point in Taiwan, I had started to take different, finding a different skill like web development or writing, copywriting, and because obviously I was doing English teaching, so I would pick up other clients to help them write papers, or I would do private lessons. And I began to develop an entrepreneurial spirit. I found out that I always had it, I just never really cultivated it. So at this point, me and my friend had this idea. He had this idea for a auto transport company, an auto transport brokerage. And me and him developed kind of a plan for it, and we opened up a business and started investing money, and we created an auto transport brokerage, which is basically, if you're trying to transport your car, you wouldn't call up like one company. What ends up happening is the way that they had it set up before, I don't know how it is now, you go in and be like, transport my car from Miami to New York, and that goes onto like a quote site, and that quote site actually sends out your name to a bunch of brokers. So you'll get 5 or 6 brokers that will call you. And what they do is they act as a middleman to put it on a job board, and they have these truck routes. So there'll be a bunch of trucks that go north and south, and they'll see a car on the board, and they'll be like, all right, when I have that, they'll talk to the broker. That broker then contacts the customer, and then, we facilitate the movement of your car. Anyway, it's kind of, I never liked it.
And then you collect a percentage?
Yeah, basically we act as the middleman. I never really liked it. I didn't think it was a great business. I always felt like, we're slimy middlemen. I've always been the type of person I don't like that kind of industry, but we did it. We were making pretty good money. I think we were billing about, by the time I had left the company, about $40,000 to $50,000 a month. That's how much we're billing. Man. But a huge amount of that expense was going into paying off for advertising, and then a lot of the other fees that go in with you have to buy all these leads. Anyway, long story short with that, we started out this company, and then I moved to the Philippines. So I went to the Philippines first and went to Mexico too, to check out where we would be able to do an office. Because at this point, I started to learn about outsourcing a lot of these jobs, outsourcing different tasks that we needed for the office and for what we're doing. Most of our business was online. And we just had a lot of people that were doing sales that were working on the phones. And I figured if we can find people who speak English, we can give them a lower percentage. Give them a lower cut of the sales. So basically, I was like, well, where can we find people outside? And I ended up learning about the Philippines, which is just south of Taiwan. I had never been to the Philippines. I didn't know anything about the Philippines. So I went on a scouting mission. Now, this is interesting. So I fly into the Philippines. I go to another hostel. And I remember getting in the cab. I dropped my bags off, getting in the cab. And I was like, all right, I don't know, I want to get a beer. So the cab driver's like, okay, I'll take you to the right spot. Drives me to what I found out to be the red light district. And I'm walking down this street in a place called Makati. And it's a street lined with, you see these trans hookers and these regular hookers and these old fat, disgusting white dudes from all over the place, and these fat, disgusting guys from the Middle East, and it's basically a playground. It's a horror. It's gross. But that was my introduction to the Philippines. And I lived there for 4 years. So what ends up happening is we choose the Philippines because I start to network there and meet a lot of great people. And there were really cool people there. And they have a very large BPO industry. BPO is business process outsourcing.
Okay.
So oftentimes, if you're calling up to these call centers, there's a specific accent. I can pick it out, but it's probably a Filipino picking it up. So people doing the chats for Facebook, like all these companies, all your big tech companies, they all have offices there. And a lot of their stuff, if it's manual, if it's task-oriented, or if it's on the phone, it's in the Philippines.
Because the labor costs are so low?
Absolutely, and they speak English.
Okay.
So English is taught in all their schools. They all learn it, and they all speak it. A lot of them are fluent in it. So we end up opening up an office. So so I moved to the Philippines, to Manila. Go to a place called Quezon City, and it's in the north part of Manila. I opened up an office. I ended up meeting a really cool girl there named Chriselle, who I met her on Tinder. So when I first got there, I just started swiping right on everyone.
Yeah.
Just to see if I can meet anybody and help me.
Oh, single guys know the swipe right on everything trick.
And I met a bunch of great people, and this became very interesting later on of how I built up my network. Because as you saw, like I had a lot of followers on my one page, and my old Facebook, like all my accounts had about 5,000 friends. I went to the max. And the way I got there was I did this for 6 months. I opened up all the apps. I had Tinder, OkCupid, I think it was called OkCupid, another one called Badoo. I had like 3 or 4 of them. And my morning routine was to go on there, swipe right on everything, and anyone that I matched with, I had this pre-made message that I'd copy and paste and send as like, I'm not on here much, but you can add me on Facebook. Yeah. And I went from 100 friends to 5,000 in about 6 months. And the funny thing about this was it's all girls, obviously, and they have a wide variety of jobs and skill sets. So when it came time for me to start hiring people and putting out things on my Facebook, I had the perfect marketing tool. I had all these girls. Now, obviously, I would go on some dates with them, too. So this made it really interesting when I ended up hiring a bunch of girls, and literally every girl in the office I had slept with.
So you started with that instead of hiring everybody and then sleeping with everybody in the office. It's already done.
Yeah, like I had slept with them all, and I became, I remained friendly with a lot of them. Some were just one night stands, but I've always been able to like remain friends with the girls I sleep with.
Right.
So it was kind of like, oh, this is fun. Yeah, maybe we're not gonna be together, but that was fun, and we could still be friends. And the hilarious thing was, the girl that I ended up meeting, Chriselle, she ended up becoming my girlfriend. And she was running the office with me. So she was co-owner of the business. Because we started up the second part. So as I said, we had that auto transport brokerage. And because we had all these people in the office, I was like, you know what? I can find other tasks for them to do. This is where I started picking up contracts for copywriting and web development, because some of these guys that I had working for me had other skills. So I opened up a second company, and we have the auto transport stuff going. And most of that's being handled by my business partner here in the U.S. And then I start handling a lot of this BPO contract stuff. And I start making pretty good money with it. But the funny thing is she obviously is my girlfriend, and we're in a relationship. But every single girl in there that I've slept with, so she did not know this.
Oh God, recipe for disaster.
Oh yeah. Well, luckily I got through it without any hiccups, because I think that the girls understood that she was, top girl, and if they started any shit, they get fired. Like, yeah, I would deal with some nonsense, but at the end of the day, no one's firing me.
Right.
So they knew best to just zip it. They kept it quiet. So that was kind of funny for me. It was just one of those cheeky things. I was like, I giggle every time I go in the office. But so now I have this office, and I got 2 businesses running. But me and my business partner with the auto transport brokerage, we're starting to. Obviously, my time's being taken up with the auto transport, or with the BPO, and I was never into the auto transport. So we end up kind of severing our severing ties and going our separate ways. So I get bought out of the company, and I take the rest of that money, and I ended up pouring it into this idea I had. This is 2016 by this time. And this is when 2016 is the year that OnlyFans came out. And at the same time, I had started doing some shoots for the auto transport company. And the models that I had worked with, I noticed they had a lot of followers, but they weren't really getting a lot of promotions in the Philippines. This is before, at least over there, they weren't making a lot of money from their following. They weren't monetizing it. I thought, you know what? It'd be cool if I could find a way to incorporate them into the process of advertising. and marketing, and they can monetize it, and I can get a cut by providing them a platform. So I start making a proto, not quite like OnlyFans, but something similar, but it's more top down. So instead of having the person handle their own account like they do in OnlyFans, they would provide content. We would provide content with them, and then they would just do the marketing end, and we'd do a cut. So I take the rest of that money and I start doing shoots, and I end up through my girlfriend, who was a makeup artist, meeting all these photographers and these models and everything. So FHM was the big magazine over there.
Yep.
It's kind of like it's like GQ, Swimsuit, Sports Illustrated, Playboy, all of them mixed into one magazine. That's their big thing. And so a lot of those girls I ended up meeting and working with. And got girl actresses on TV, Japanese porn stars, for instance, all these pretty cool people that I end up meeting and then working with over there. Now, my first iteration, I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. No idea. I don't know anything about photography. I don't know anything about directing a magazine. I had literally no idea what the fuck I was doing. So I poured in a lot of money. I probably blew about 20 grand on this little venture, and it went nowhere. So I went through a couple iterations. I eventually leave the other girl. I closed down the BPO, run into some troubles, because eventually, 2016, the date comes where my passport expires. So yeah, all this dark cloud, remember, all this is going on. I'm still handling now this business, two businesses, the intricacies and complications that go with that, but also with everything still looming in the back of my head. So I still wasn't a great boyfriend, still a little distant. I end up leaving the girl that I was with there, and I hit some hard times because now with the passport gone, there's certain issues that I'm having with financial issues. I'm not able to open up a bank account. I can't show an ID in order to get money. There's some issues I'm running into, basically. So now I find myself, I had reached a pinnacle, and I hit a sharp drop. So I take a little bit of time. I go back to my apartment and kind of live out there for about a couple months, like a cave, sitting in there trying to rethink how I can do this magazine. Because now I got to pour all my effort into something. And I come up with a new way to do it. I learn how to code and create websites, and then I learn how to do a little bit of photography, and I ended up creating my own website and putting enough money together to do my own shoots. So I launched this magazine. Well, it's not really a magazine. I launched this website. And pray and hope to God it works. So the first month I make like $5,000. I was just hoping I could make like $700 just to cover the cost that I had put out. I make $5,000 the first month. Next month it doubles to 10.
Now, where's this money coming from? Who's paying you?
Okay, so all these, and the way that I had it set up was, I would do the shoots with the girls. I would create content, photos. At this point, it was just photos, no video.
Yep.
And I would put them up in galleries, call them ebooks. And basically, any of the fans, and this is something you have to understand too, they have a fanboy culture over in Asia, and you can see a little bit of that here now too with a lot of people who are into Japanese anime, and they have names for them here, but it's very similar. It's very prevalent over there. They're very it's a very vibrant community. They're very invested in the girls that they follow and like. They'll go to their events, they'll buy and send them stuff. Like OnlyFans, what you see in the interaction between OnlyFans is very normal over there in Asia. So these girls will do the content with me. They'll make the content with me. I'll put it up on the site, and then they do the marketing. And the way I had it was, you do the marketing, I'll give you a split. It's 30% for you girls, 30% for the content creators, and 30% for the magazine, for the site itself. So I had a nice split. Everyone wins. Cool. And that's what was really happening, is the girls saw that they were getting a percentage, and they pushed and they hustled. So it's from all these guys' fans who wanted to see their pictures. It's really simple. And I knew that there would be I knew that it would kind of be okay. I didn't realize the success it would have. And every month I would increase by $5,000 to $10,000. Until that point, I was making about $40,000 a month, a little bit more than that. So,
photographing beautiful women.
Yeah, photographing beautiful women. So it's roughly $500,000 a year.
It's like light bulb, right? It's like,
yeah. And the funny thing is, I had friends that were like, no one's gonna pay to see photos. I was like, yeah, well, I mean, somebody will. I'll make enough just to eat. Like,
right.
I can figure out what to do later. I was just as surprised as anyone else to see that it blew up. So yeah, every month it started going up more and more and more until I was making an enormous amount. Then I moved into a new place, got a studio. By the time things end, and I have to come back here, I have probably about 5 or 6 photographers working for me. I have 2 assistants. Obviously, I have my own place and studio. I have at least 100 girls that we have working on the site. So, in terms of their money, I'm making 2 million pesos a month.
Wow.
Making $500,000 a year U.S. currency. So I went from, again, almost nothing. I kept doing these up and down, this horrible roller coaster of success and failure. But so here's one of the things that happens though when you start making a lot of money in a foreign country. One, they don't like foreigners. Asians are extraordinarily racist, and they really don't like us. They like our money, they don't like us. And there are a lot of organizations over there that, like, that place is corrupt as fuck, to put it that way. And when you start entering that world, you start entering a world that you have a lot of drugs, you have a lot of corruption and between the government, there's a lot of prostitution and human trafficking. And one of the things that I encountered was, well, some of the issues with human trafficking. And some of that I got through the casino cartels. So the Chinese launder and move their money through the casinos, and they have a big operation in the Philippines. And all the rich fools from China come over there to party, and somebody has to provide them with entertainment. And that's how I ended up meeting these people. Is I had access to a lot of girls. They needed girls. I had girls. So we ended up building a relationship. And to put it into perspective, right now, since I left, they now have an operation working with Playboy. So Playboy in the Philippines now took the place of me.
Holy shit.
And what I would do is we'd have these private events and parties. They're really funny. You can think of like Dan Bilzerian and that lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's what they would provide for people who wanted to pay the money to have these private events and lifestyles.
Yep.
So I ended up kind of working with these people as a side thing and making a lot of connections. Now what ends up happening here is, because I was a foreigner, because I was white, people became a little envious of my position. And there are these other entities, as I said, with drugs and the illegal activities that go there, that all of these dark things work together in a network there. And I was part of that network, unfortunately. And again, I had a coveted position. Now, someone had figured out that because I didn't have a passport, my visa had expired. And they were looking to take advantage of something to exploit and take basically what I had. So, by the way, how's your
Okay. So
has it hit yet or what?
yeah, for sure. So it's probably been 25 minutes. I almost within 5 minutes had nausea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That I thought I was gonna have to get up and go throw up.
Did it pass? Did you just have to burp?
It seems to have passed. My butthole is sweating.
Yeah, okay. So it's starting to hit you. I get sweaty in the palms and sometimes
Yeah, if you've seen me fidgeting, it's because I'm putting this fan on me.
Yeah.
But it's been like a shift from like this. Good night, ladies. This shift from a little bit of nausea to like now it's like more clarity. Like I can feel clarity.
That's good. That's good.
But if you can hold your thought for 1 second, I have to pee real quick.
Go for it.
All right, I'll be right back.
Yeah. Do you want to pause this?
No, I'll just cut it out.
Yeah.
All right, I'm back. Back and refreshed and drained. You know what's funny? I said that it's been about 20 minutes. I just checked the time. It's been an hour. So I definitely think they've kicked in because I thought that was 20 minutes, but we're already an hour in. William is downstairs getting a top off on his tea. You know what's funny? I'm like, it's been about 20 minutes. I just checked the time on it. It's been an hour. Yeah. Yes.
Goodness. Well, we're hitting the end of the story.
Yeah, no. It's fantastic. This is a wild ride. But it's just so funny. My concept of time was a little shifted.
Yeah, that does actually. Usually for me, it's time goes significantly slower. Like 5 minutes will go, like 10 minutes go by. I think it's only 1 or 2. Like
Right, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I thought it was 20 minutes and it's been an hour.
It's super weird.
So I'm gonna just write up in the mic, brother.
Okay.
So you're in the Philippines. You've got all this action going on. You got people coming down who want to party.
Yeah.
But there's people who are envious of your situation, and they've learned about your visa
Yes.
being up.
Yeah. So in addition to this, the elections in the Philippines are happening. This is now 2019. The elections are going on, national elections, I think local elections, and there seems to be a roundup of anyone that's in the country to try and show some, I don't know, there's a little bit of nationalistic stuff there. You know, it's like politicians say, hey, let's get rid of the immigrants. So I end up getting picked up one day randomly. So these guys come in. So I'm at my studio working. We'll have to explain a little bit. Usually, if you don't have a visa, no one really gives a shit. You just kind of pay some money, and it's
Yeah, but
not a
you're
big
you're
thing.
not flying under the radar at
No,
all.
I'm not flying on the radar, and I am not your average person there. I'll put
Right.
it that way. I've now been there 4 years. I run this large enterprise. I'm working with all these very shady characters. We're doing Duterte, who's the current president. He came to power, and he's notorious. He has this drug war going on. They're murdering people in the streets, and he was known for having a place down in Davao where they ran this whole city basically like a little mini cartel. He was basically this little dictator of the city, and he had little groups that would go around and kill the people that he didn't really like. And when he became president, this started to spread nationally in this war on drugs that was really, from what someone told me, and I'm not entirely certain of this, but it seems like it was to consolidate the power of the drugs and to control the trade through their administration. That's neither here nor there, but what that means for someone like me is to show that he's still tough on crime, to show basically to promote his image and how he's handling the country. He starts rounding up people. And I had people who were trying to take me out for a bit. But because of, at that point, I had been through a lot of stuff, and you can say that my time away had changed me.
I'd say so.
And I was not exactly an easy person to fuck with, we'll put it this way. And I had the money and the power to handle things if I needed to. So I had people who were coming after me, people who wanted to fuck with me, but it wasn't really working. However, if you can bribe some of the government to do it, that's a little different. That's a whole different ball game. So I end up getting picked up one day. So I got these people, they storm into my place, guns drawn. I'm surrounded by all these people. And mind you, somebody from the U.S. government walks in. And I forgot to mention, when my passport was expiring, I went to the embassy. I'd been to the embassy a couple times. I went to a couple events there. I had worked with some people that basically did some business at the embassy. So I went in there initially just to kind of figure out what was going on with my status back home. And they talked to me. They ran me. They're like, listen, we can't arrest you. You don't have a warrant. You're not like a fugitive. We can't just pick you up and bring you back. Obviously, you do have this court case, but the only thing you can do is we can give you a ticket to go back home and handle it, or you can just handle it with a lawyer and then let us know when it's all done, and then we'll process and give you your passport back. Because I tried to go get my passport renewed. So keep this in mind. They don't have any. There's no reason to pick me up. I don't have a warrant like that.
So you now know.
Yeah, I now
even
know.
though you've had this thing in the back of your head, you now know, oh, nobody's coming to look for me.
Yeah. So nobody's coming. I don't have that. I'm not worried about that anymore. I know what the case is, right? And I did. I ended up hiring another lawyer. I looked into it. I tried to kind of move it along, and it was more of in the background because at this point I'm getting real busy with the business, and I'm thinking to myself, it's going really well. At some point, I'm just going to have enough money to throw at this problem, and it'll go away, because that's usually what happens, right? So I'm not even thinking about it. I kind of on the back burner for me. So I get picked up, and I remember the one guy, and I'm looking at him, I was like, I'm not supposed to be, what the hell's going on? He's like, bureaucracy. I was like, what the fuck kind of answer is that? You guys aren't supposed to pick me. I don't have a warrant out. And this is where it gets weird, because there was no real legitimate reason to pick me up. So, like, there was no legal precedent. The U.S. didn't try and come get me. There wasn't anything like that. However, I get picked up and put into this immigration detention center in a place called Bikutan. And it is where the former dictatorship used to imprison political prisoners, torture them, and kill them. But now it's an immigration detention facility. So,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I'll have some photos I'll show you at some point. But it is basically a dump, and it's filled with a bunch of guys from all over the world. And it is run by a Korean, I guess you could call them a Korean mafia. So like the Korean Yakuza. And basically all these Korean gangsters that go there, they flee Korea. And because of the way how the Philippines has their extradition, the Koreans can't come just pick them up. They have to be brought to there by the Filipinos. Same thing with us. Filipinos have to take you and bring you to the airport and then hand you over to your foreign government. They can't just come get you for whatever reason. It's just how they have their laws. I'm sure it's similar to other countries. But for this reason, though, the Koreans, they just pay off the immigration, the BI, Bureau of Immigration, to keep them in the country. And they end up setting up shop in these prisons and these detention facilities. They pay a fuck ton of money, and they're separate. They have their own buildings, they have air conditioning, they have prostitutes coming in, they're sitting there drinking, and everyone else gets put into the common areas where it's rat infested, fucking disgusting ass place. Everyone's trying to share like 3 bathrooms. The food's awful. There's literally rats running all over the place. People die in there. There's like 2 or 3 people that died while I was in there. Gross, awful place.
How long were you there?
3 months.
Okay.
So I'm in there for about 3 months.
Probably felt like 3 years.
Yeah. Well, during this period of time, my place gets raided. I am extorted while I'm in there. So they steal a bunch of my shit, take all my stuff from my office and my studio, and like I said, they extort me. So I had to pay them some money to get some of my stuff back, which my best friends and my assistants go and pick up. So I have some of my stuff that's remained. A lot of it was sold off or stolen. So obviously now I'm figuring what the fuck's going on, and I'm trying to talk to the U.S. government to see are you guys taking me back? But there's no order to take me back. So now I'm in this weird limbo because they didn't put out an order to get me back. Now I'm just sitting in this detention facility, and I start to find out other people that are in the same situation. Turns out, if certain people find out you have money, and they have an entire system built around this in the Philippines, if you're a foreign national and you have some real estate that you've acquired there or businesses there, and somebody finds a way to get you picked up, you end up in this system where they take all your assets, they take all your money, they take your property, they take whatever, and they can kind of keep you in there for in perpetuity. And it's a whole almost industry built up. It's a little side industry. They literally will go out and find someone successful, and if the Filipino's jealous and wants that, and he pays off the right person, you'll get taken and he'll take your assets. So this happens quite often. So there's no order to come get me. The U.S. government isn't going to come get me.
Now you're wishing that you had a pickup warrant.
Yeah. And now I'm just sitting in there, and the longer I'm in there, again, I had these enemies and these people who wanted my business and wanted my stuff. I'm starting to think that the walls are closing in. So I try and plan a little bit of an escape. Now I'm going through. I was able to smuggle in a saw, and I start working through one of the roofs, and there had like a hole in there, and they had barbed wire, and not barbed wire, metal bars, rebar. And I kind of cut through, and I was going out kind of scouting one day because I was able to get outside of the top building, trying to see how tall the walls are, and because other people had actually escaped from there. Some Koreans not too long before had. I was trying to figure out where they did it from. Anyway, I get my ass caught, and they had already had it out for me. They knew who I was, like the guards. There was comments. There was different things that were dropped to me. So this is why I was putting a real need for me to kind of figure out a way out. And once they found me, I guess this was their opportunity. So at this point, they get me. They bring me to a room, and they start to basically beat the shit out of me and torture me. So I spend the next several hours getting beat. They end up using tools. There's about 8 of them at this point. They go through rounds, taking turns. And I go through several hours of beating and torture, and I end up being waterboarded. They piss on me, so I smell like urine for like a month after that. And after I'm basically brutalized for several hours, they bring me to this place in the back, which apparently they have all these cages, and I get thrown back in there into this cage, chained up, and into one that's too small for me to like lay down in. So I get put back there with a couple other guys who I've forgotten. Nobody even knew that they were there, but they're in these back cages that they kind of throw you back there and forget about. Luckily, because of my status and who I was, somebody got in contact with the embassy. I don't know who it was, or I still to this day don't know how the embassy found out, but they found out and they were fucking pissed. And in the middle of the night, they send in a couple agents. So you have to, here's one of the things about how they have this set up here in the immigration facility is, if your embassy wants to come talk to you, they kind of have, they come there and they can't just speak to you directly. You have to go meet them in another room. However, if they don't want you to talk to your government, they'll just go in your stead and say, he doesn't want to see you today. So they'll stop you from being able to talk to you. There's a lot of illegal things that go on in this very corrupt prison. And they handle this, for instance, if they beat the shit out of someone like they did me or they fuck someone up, they'll throw them in the back, and the next 2 months, they'll just keep telling your embassy that you don't want to talk to them until you're healed up. So they had been getting reports, apparently, of this happening to not just American citizens, but other citizens. And it got back to the embassy, and they came in the middle of the night. And this is the first time ever. They was like, fuck you, and they just walked in. This was hilarious. I've never seen this, because they usually can't enter past this, like, meeting room that we're supposed to go in. So they come in, and they get my testimony, and I'm looking over, and the guards are, like, shitting bricks. And, yeah, I'm just all chained up, all fucked up, trying to utter and explain everything that happened, and they record it. And then they go. And now I'm like, thank God, someone found me. They know I'm here. So I end up, obviously, I was in there for 3 months, and then I'm in the back of this cage for about a week. And I haven't eaten, and so I'm all fucked up. Like I said, I've been tortured, brutalized, can barely walk, and I've been starved for a week. Still chained up in this fucking cage. So the U.S. government demands that I get get a medical, go to medical and get a fucking...
Extradition?
Well, no, not extradition. They want me to get reviewed. The hell,
like a physical?
Physical, duh, yeah. And so they do. So they begrudgingly bring me to a medical thing off base. So I'm on a military base, by the way. So this immigration facility is on a military base.
Okay.
So I'm surrounded by armed guards anyway. So while I'm in there, I hear them talking about some plans, and then it gets through me through the grapevine that what they're planning to do is, because they got caught beating an American citizen, they don't want me going to talk to the press, and they don't want me to talk to anyone else. So their goal, their plan is to, on the way either to or from the medical thing, is to say that I tried to escape and then kill me. So obviously we get there, and they bring me out with a detail. I'm with like 6 other guards. So I'm in this van, just me chained up, and then they got 6 people going with me, military personnel, and then 2 guards. So when we get to the medical place, I have somebody from the State Department comes and sees me. And usually when you're at like these embassies, they have people from the State Department, they have like CIA liaisons, they have all these agents. I don't know who this guy was, but he wasn't a normal person, we'll put it that way. And so I explained to him what they were telling me, what I overheard. He was like, okay, so after I get the examination, on the way back, our government tails the car. And I can see these guys are fucking livid because now they can't get away with their shit. So they bring me back to the base, and within another day, I'm finally released. And they couldn't kill me. So the U.S., they have to drop me off to the airport, to the custody of the U.S., and I'm finally brought back here to the U.S. And that's in 2019. You remember when Avengers Endgame came out?
I think somewhat. Night, Toby. Pull. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So
I remember vaguely.
Well,
upstairs.
All right. So Endgame, and then the end of Game of Thrones.
Okay.
That was within the same couple weeks or a month.
Okay.
That's when all this was happening to me. So if you remember that,
yeah,
I didn't see those two, obviously.
Yeah. You're locked up abroad.
Because I was locked up and being tortured. So after that is when I get brought back here to the U.S. Now this is fun. They dropped me off in California, so it's like, all right, you're alive, and they drop me in L.A. And I immediately get picked up and I sit in the LA County prison for like a month.
And this is on the thing that happened with your wife.
Yeah, because I had finally come back, they had to pick me up, and they had to bring me back to Florida. But you have to sit and go through or wait out a period of time before they can bring you back. So I wait there for almost a month, then I'm shipped across the country in this fucking metal box for 10 days, and I finally arrive in Florida, and I stay here for 1 day, and then they release me. So I ended up working out something. Here's the thing. It had been so long, and my lawyer had, I think the judge kind of figured out what was going on. I wasn't convicted, but I still had to, because I had left and didn't do all my stuff, I still had to do some probation and pay my extradition fees from California. So I didn't get off completely scot-free. I still had to pay for shit because I did leave, and I did skip out on going to court, but I was not convicted of the crime. So in a weird way, it took me a decade, but I finally kind of...
This is a decade.
Yeah, this is now a decade.
Holy shit.
So after a decade, I finally finished that up. And that is where I end up back in the U.S. So I haven't been in the U.S. in a decade now. I had gallivanted across the planet doing all this other crazy shit, and I'm back here in the U.S. And this is where everything starts to catch up. And this is finally getting to the point of where we started this.
Yeah, no, but what a fucking wild story, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit. It's literally like out of a fucking movie. Like, this needs to be turned into a fucking made-for-TV series.
I would say, like, yeah, Netflix, I would never be able to... It can never do it justice doing a movie because you're trying to condense a decade.
It needs to be a series.
Yeah, it needs to be a series. So I get back here, and I remember that I had this kind of idea that whenever I came back to the U.S., because this is on my mind now, for thinking 10 years, I haven't been home. I haven't seen my family. I haven't seen anyone. I've been alone this entire time, too. I had this idea that I'd sit in a bar somewhere, and I'd have somebody be like, hey, did you see the game? And I'd just fucking lose my shit. Because I was like, no, I didn't see the fucking game. Like it was hard for me to really relay. It was a bigger culture shock coming back here to the U.S. than it was any other country I've been to.
Right.
A lot of things have
You're
changed,
like, see
obviously.
the fucking game. Do you have any idea? Right,
Yeah.
understood.
So I come back, and what I had turned into in my time away was, I was very alone. I had to not be paranoid, but I had to be very on guard. I was not very trustworthy of people. I was a very hard person, we'll put it that way. And I knew that I would have to come back and I would face challenges kind of reintegrating into normalcy here. It would be very difficult for me to just, hey, what's going on, guys, and go into like a normal life after everything that I'd been doing. Also, I had a lot of the issues, and I guess you could call it trauma. I don't like saying trauma. It sounds dirty to me after how misused the word is often these days with trauma and PTSD. Everyone has PTSD, but I was like, no, I came up with actual PTSD. So I had fallen into a pretty deep depression. Being in all this normalcy was actually worse than all the dealing with all this stuff. Like once you're here, it's like it all catches up to you.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, now I can breathe, but the weight finally falls on me. And I was having a hard time with my emotions, and I was unable to really have regular interactions. And then, I started to spiral a little bit into depression and think about suicide. And when I got to that point, I was like, all right, I need to do something about this. And throughout the time of dealing with all this, I had started to look into like alternative methods to deal with some of the issues I was dealing with. And that's when I came across mushrooms and all the research that they've been doing with those. And I looked into that, and I became convinced that was going to be the way for me to fix it. I was going to fix it. I wasn't going to go to the doctors. I wasn't going to take some medication that's going to solve one problem and give me 5 more. I wanted to handle it myself. So I eventually found some mushrooms for microdosing, and I started taking them. And I started to slowly but surely be able to put myself back together. The way I would describe it is it's if your psyche is like a house, and you ever see those pictures where like a storm comes through and all that's left is kind of like some of the walls and some of the shit, right?
And the fireplace.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what you end up being. And I slowly had to start putting myself together. And you can think of it like, all right, this broken, busted house, you turn on the water, it starts to squirt everywhere. And that's like your emotions. So anyway, slowly but surely I started to put my psyche back together again. I started to be able to control my emotions. I started to kind of wade out of the depressing pool. And the more and more I did mushrooms, the higher doses I did, the more I stayed regular with it, the more I was further along in my process of getting back, until the point where now I'm I feel 100% again. And it took me, I got back in 2019. It's 2022 now. It took me almost 2 years to get to that point. But with the mushrooms, it was about a year. So a year of regular dosage and regular doing it and increasing and working through my own problems too. It takes some self-work. I was able to kind of put myself back together. So I am, I guess, now a very big advocate for psilocybin mushrooms.
I'd
and
imagine
microdosing.
so. I think it's commendable that you don't call it trauma. That's pretty interesting, that perspective. It's just like it's your story, and it's kind of part of who you are, even though it was highly traumatizing. I couldn't imagine. And it's interesting also how it was like such extravagant, beautiful women everywhere, and then such a stark difference to be in like a fucking cage. Dude, that is a fucking wild story.
Yeah. So you can imagine, it's been interesting too, trying to, I don't know.
Reassimilate?
Well, reassimilate. Yeah. How do you go from all that to like doing normal shit here?
Right.
And I found that I couldn't really, because when I got back, I just wanted to talk about things.
Right.
And I would find some people to talk to. And I literally had people who were like, I don't believe you. And I have photos of me doing a lot of stuff. I even have an article about me being like all fucking tortured and shit. A lot of the stuff was removed from the news because it was during a election cycle. And I got my friends who was like, yeah, you were in the news, and then they took it out.
So, honestly, as you're telling the story,
yeah,
I could understand how somebody would be like, did this really happen, right?
Yeah.
But hearing you articulate the story, to me, it's 1,000%. This is your life story up to this point in your life. How would you be able to articulate such a tale?
Yeah.
But I understand. It's the phrase like, that's fucking unbelievable.
Yeah.
And that's why, because it's a fucking crazy ass journey, dude.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that was after, there's the loss of the business too, and that's another thing. Like, I lost all my business. So I think that hit me more than anything else. Was I had worked for years to finally build up something and to have some success despite all of the problems and shit I was dealing with. And then having that all taken from me. I went from having all this stuff and being at a pretty high level in status to being a nobody here in the US, like I just am dropped off here. Like, I was working with women who have hundreds of thousands of followers, actresses, porn stars over there. Like, I'm dating literal Playboy models over in Asian Playboy models over there. And I come here and it's just like
regular Joe.
Now I'm a dude. Yeah. And, that made it kind of difficult because I wanted to start shooting and working with girls. And I could tell you that's a whole nother podcast. Let's talk about dealing with the people here and doing shoots. Like, that's a separate world in and of itself. But that's been frustrating. So, there's a lot of different frustration, a lot of things that I was dealing with coming back, aside from the actual shit, like your life is reset. They pick you up, drop you in another country, figure it out.
Yep.
And it's like, fuck. And then COVID, by the way. So 6 months after I come back.
Yeah, COVID lockdowns and the great reset.
Yeah.
So your life got reset, and then the world's getting a reset.
Yeah.
Now, you brought some pictures with you today.
Oh, yeah.
What time frame are those pictures? The ones that you gave, are they all in a similar time frame so that you can kind of narrow it down?
Yeah, this is actually all just within the last year or two. So
okay,
these
cool.
are just regular photos. I know that I didn't kind of prep you to go down the story. I could have had other photos of like the time traveling around.
Yeah, no problem.
Shit like that. But yeah, these are some photos just recently of what I do.
Yeah, and I think this could be a cool, because we hear this story about you doing all these images, and that's kind of like the core of what you were doing there.
Yeah.
And then these will kind of depict your clear skill and talent, and the how terrible it was to be taking pictures of such ugly people.
Oh yes, it really. Again, this is probably the biggest trauma I've had to go through.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, let's see what we got here. So this is one of your ugly friends.
Yeah, these ones were over in Arizona. So when I got back, I did spend a little bit of time in Arizona. There was a guy I knew in the Philippines. I kind of went there to help him work on his business. But while I was out there, I met some really great people.
Yeah.
These are some of the girls. So like that one, for instance, from Arizona. Same girl.
Same girl. So I probably should have given it. Is this the same girl?
No, this is a different one. So actually, she's a Ford model. She's represented by Ford. So I do actually have some of my photos like on the Ford website um, for their agency. So I was able to, even though I didn't have quite the same status as I had before, my work was good enough to at least get the attention of some girls who would
Yep.
appreciate it enough. So, like her, she's a great model.
Yeah, beautiful.
This is again in Arizona. That's another one in Arizona, actually. I think I got a lot of these from my time there.
And then I have this other slideshow.
Yeah, this is in Miami. One of those is an actual adult actress. Find her on Pornhub.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I should have given a disclosure that the parental discretion is advised.
Yeah.
But these are SFW. That's
yeah,
one
all
of the things
these.
we were talking about. These are tame.
Yeah, this is the very few tame ones I could find.
Yeah, understood.
But yeah.
But just beautiful women. It's beautiful work. It's beautiful composition. Now, do you edit these
Yeah, I do my own edits as well.
in Photoshop?
Yeah, I do Photoshop, Lightroom, and then Photoshop. So I have always been a big fan of how the Russian photographers have worked out. Like I think their work is beautiful, and I try and follow a lot of their stuff. This is actually from the Philippines.
Okay.
So this is at least one thing from the Philippines and some of
Right.
the work that I would do over there. Most of that stuff was nude, so I had a very hard time finding anything that was in.
I'm like, William, can you find some safe for work pictures that we can show? And I mean, you did a great job. These are beautiful pictures of beautiful girls. And it's a good, just a very brief example of the photography that you kind of built this whole fucking empire around.
Yeah.
So what's on the horizon?
Well, as you know, I am.
I only know because he brought some equipment here today and then
Yeah.
started telling me about it. I'm not like in the mix.
Oh no!
right?
I think no. What's on the horizon is I've had enough time to kind of get myself together here, and I never planned on staying as long. Like I figured I'd come back and then I'd get my ass back to Asia to get back to work. I was still running part of the company remotely, and then when COVID hit, what little infrastructure I had to shut down. So I had to lose everything and start over, and a lot of that was real difficult because I didn't plan on staying here that long. So I tried not to invest in anything. But now being here this long, and kind of getting myself together, I feel confident enough to start another business to get moving forward. So I did just recently open a business, starting a production company, and I might do something similar. I might do something different. I'm going to kind of see what's out there, but I do have, I'm going to work within my wheelhouse because it worked for me before.
Right.
And I'll probably do something similar in that vein. And if any other opportunities arise, I'll probably take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're a very talented dude. I think I had no fucking idea.
Yeah, and as I
Because
said,
you're a pretty quiet guy,
Yeah.
And you're very soft-spoken, and we've barely had a chance to have many conversations. So I'm just really thankful for you coming and kind of, because you really, that's personal shit that you just shared, and I appreciate it a lot, dude.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see what kind of stuff that you produce in the future.
I'm sure.
And hopefully we can continue this conversation down the road.
Oh, yeah.
And you can tell, I'm sure you have more and more wild stories.
Well, there's, obviously we just tried to condense 10 years into a very short period of time.
yeah,
so
which
you
was
can
done
imagine.
well, dude. You really, you painted the picture.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you. But of course, within that time, there's a lot that can be expanded. So I'm sure there's if you ever needed someone to come here and give you a funny tale, I have plenty of them to give. But,
Well, I'd imagine that we're going to get some requests after this tale, this story, this trip that you took us on. Literally, people are going to want you to expound upon it, and I'd be glad to hear more.
I'd
Dude.
be happy to.
That's
Yeah.
awesome, William. Thank you very much.
No,
dude.
I appreciate you for having me on, and it kind of felt good to kind of relay the story somewhere. And I
I thought about that a second ago, that when you talked about coming back and people asking you if you had seen the game and whatnot, I thought like, wow, this was probably a good, healthy release for you.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever sat down and told it like this. So, yeah. So it's been good. I appreciate you having me on. I think this was therapeutic.
No, absolutely. That was one of the big reasons I wanted to do this podcast, because everybody has a story to tell, and everybody deserves to be heard. you know. So, and you just showed a great example of somebody that people we should be listening.
Well, again, appreciate, man.
Yeah.
I'll come back anytime, and be happy to regale you in more tales of craziness. My
Absolutely.
Odyssey.
How about social media so people can see more photos, keep up
Okay.
with your happenings?
Yeah, I've rebranded when I came here. I do have a decent following, but most of that is for Asia. And so that content, I don't think a lot of people would like, but my content and branding that I've done here is Odyssey. And I've named that obviously because of the 10 years I was gone. It was kind of like I've been on an Odyssey.
Yeah.
So it's a reworking of it. It's Oddizee. So at Oddizee. You can find me on Instagram. And,
Just one word, at Oddizee.
Well, like the
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah, one word, Odyssey.
Yeah,
So-
that's awesome. Spell it one more time.
Oddizee.
That's awesome. William, you're a fucking wild dude, man. That was excellent. Thank you, man. Thank you for sharing. If you guys love this story and want to hear more of it, follow William. Like, comment, subscribe. We'll have him back. Put in the comments what you want to hear more about. And we appreciate you guys being a fly on the wall for this crazy cool conversation.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, and thank you all.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time. Boolah. Holy shit.